Hello, huddlers, and welcome to the CDFW Recruit, Retain, Reactivate, Harvest Huddle Hour, R3H3. I'm Tish Palmadesi. I'm a member of the R3 team with CDFW, and I'm going to help lead today's discussion on an introduction to turkey hunting. These R3H3 recordings, or huddles as we like to call them, are a resource designed by the R3 team and CDFW to bring more Californians to hunting, fishing, foraging, shooting sports, and just getting outdoors. They're meant for a beginner audience or those looking to gain knowledge around a new skill. We ask if at any time you have questions, comments, concerns, or even want to suggest a topic for us to cover, just reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is r3statewideprogram@wildlife.ca.gov. And now for our huddle. We're going to move inside to our virtual interview room and talk to CDFW's Shelly Blair, an environmental scientist that's going to walk us through some basics of getting started with our turkey hunting journey. All right, so we have moved inside. We have Shelly waiting for us in our virtual interview room. Shelly, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know how you got started in turkey hunting.
My name is Shelly Blair. I'm a wildlife biologist. Environmental scientist is my official capacity, but I'm a unit biologist for El Dorado and Alpine counties. So I handle all the wildlife management issues. I organize special hunts in my county actually too. So I run a turkey hunt in El Dorado County, which is fun.
So when did you start turkey hunting?
So I grew up in a family that was like avid hunters. So my brother and my dad went out, and my mom hunted too. So they went on trips, and I just never was interested in it. And then I got to high school, and I started becoming more interested in it. And that's when I started getting more interested in, just biology in general. And just, my career path was kind of starting. So yeah, just the interest there. And I just really enjoyed that time with my dad. And now my brother and I go hunting. He kind of guides me as well. So.
And you said that you've continued that with your own kids.
Yes. So that was really important to share that tradition because it meant so much to me. And I actually married somebody that didn't grow up in a hunting family, and he has hunted with us, but usually it's just my kids and I and my brother. So we do a lot of hunting trips.
As a hunting family, where would you say like your turkey hunting journey began? Was it at the beginning? Was it a species that you started with, or did you work your way into? Just for, people that are watching and have never hunted at all, is this a good species to start with, would you say?
It definitely is. It's actually one of my most favorite things to hunt. It's very exciting, should I say? Yeah, I did start with birds. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do big game species, but the idea of actually harvesting an animal that you're going to consume, it's healthy. It's from the environment, and it just that whole aspect of just that, being able to harvest your own food too was really important. And I grew up eating, game species and stuff, and so. So yeah, turkeys was a good option just because I liked I love the spring. Spring turkey is my favorite hunting because it's beautiful being out there, but also just what you have to do, like the process of getting a bird is exciting. It just, your heart beats and pounds in your chest, and you're waiting for them to just pop over the hill, and the whole experience was really fun.
What do you need to do to go turkey hunting?
Right. So you need a valid hunting license, which requires that hunter education course ahead of time. And then adults need a valid upland game stamp. But in order to shoot any upland game, you have to have that stamp. Juniors are not required to have that. They just need a valid junior hunting license. So
okay. Turkey is a form of upland game.
Yes. Okay.
There's 2 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me about the different seasons and where we go from there. Like, okay, we're going to start in spring, or we're going to start in, is it fall?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Then what we do from there.
Okay. So spring turkey hunting, you're really, you're utilizing the behavior of the animals. So in the spring, turkeys start in their breeding season. And what happens is that the males, the toms is what we call them, they start displaying for the females, and so their social behaviors change in the spring. And in spring turkey hunting, you're utilizing those social changes within their behavior to try to trick them, and then into harvesting them. So you're basically sitting and becoming a part of the environment and calling in the animals, and waiting for them to come towards you. So you use certain calls to lure the toms closer to you. And in spring season, you can only shoot bearded animals, which most birds, bearded birds, are males. But there are, on rare occasions, females that have beards as well. So in the fall, though, they're not in breeding season. So it's more of a stock in harvest, they're not going to be answering calls at that time. You're not going to be sitting in one place. You're going to be more pursuing them on the landscape during the fall season. So
what is bearded? Can you explain that a little bit?
Turkeys have, coming out of their chest, they have this wiry, hairy material, and that's what we call the turkey beard.
Okay.
And so usually little, like Jake's is a young turkey, and they have smaller beards. So that's kind of how you age class them as well.
What about like what we need to wear? Do we need to get decoys? Kind of walk us through preparing for, the night before you're about to go out.
Okay. So you shoot time is typically a half an hour before sunrise. So a lot of the areas you want to get out there before the sun comes up, because the birds are roosting in trees. If you can scout beforehand, that's ideal, because then you know where they're roosting. You don't necessarily know where they're going to fly off the roost, but if you can set up under a tree or in a blind somewhere close by that area to be able to get them on the ground and then call them in, at least you know where the birds are, Okay. So I really recommend scouting if you can, scouting an area, seeing what the birds are doing. So yeah, so you're in the middle of the night, basically, crawling in oak woodlands to try to set up where you need to be. I would recommend wearing full camo. A lot of turkey hunters either use face painting or facial masks, because you want to blend into the environment. You don't want them to see you. They're really keen on movement too, so you have to be very still. So it's a lot of sitting and waiting and being very still. Which can be hard for younger kids, but it's still very exciting. So as you're sitting there, you're calling them, you're listening. The decoys, a lot of people buy hen decoys and set them out in front of them where they're sitting or where their blinds are, to lure an animal in closer, because your shot can't be, I would say, more than 20, 30 yards. You need the bird to be pretty close in order to get a good shot at it. Or if you're using archery, that's the same thing. You want them to be pretty close. So you're drawing them in. Visually, they see that hen decoy, or the toms during certain times of the year or the breeding season, they will want to fight other toms. What I found in the last few years, the tom decoys actually work really well. The problem with the tom decoys, though, is that you have to be really careful if you're hunting on public lands where there's multiple hunters. You really don't want to use a tom decoy, because you don't want someone else thinking that that's a real turkey and shooting at you. Right? So you have to be really careful. If there's a very controlled environment where that there's not other people out there, you're on private land, or you're in a special hunt where no one else is hunting around you, then you can use that type of decoy. But you just want to be really careful. So the other thing with turkey hunting too is on public lands is you are all camoed. You're trying to hide. You need to be really aware of who else is out on the area, so that you're not shooting towards anyone else. So, because they're not going to be able to see you.
Right.
So you're not wearing hunter orange like you would when you're deer hunting or squirrel hunting. But so you got to be very careful about that.
What type of shotgun does someone need to start turkey hunting?
Any kind of shotgun. You can use a 12 gauge, 20 gauge. There's 28 gauge shotguns. You want to have a certain pellet size, because it's a bigger bird. So you're not going to use the same pellet size in your shotgun shells as you would if you were hunting dove, let's say, okay. Right? And if you've gone through the hunter education course, you would know all this stuff. That's why it's required before you get your hunting license, because they go over this type of thing. Like, you want to make sure that you're using the right equipment for the right animal.
What do you need? Like, you mentioned different types of calls and stuff. what do you need if you're going to go out in the spring season? What's like the basic set of gear? What do you need to get started? How do you learn how to call a turkey?
Yeah, that it is tricky. And I'm fortunate that I have people that I go with that are like expert callers. So I always hunt with people that are more experienced. And I think that's the one thing that I would tell people, that if you're going to go out, I really, really encourage you to go with somebody that has a little bit of experience doing it. Because it is a little bit of an art form in the calling aspect. So there's a variety of different calls that can be utilized. One is a box call that uses chalk on wood to imitate the clucking sound of a hen. That's to lure the tom or the male turkey to you when they want to breed. So there's that. There's something called a diaphragm, which is it's a mouthpiece that you put in your mouth that you can also imitate that clucking sound. You can also do like a put put. Usually turkeys do that when they're alerting other turkeys of potential danger, but there's all sorts of different varieties of calls that the birds are doing in the social structure that you're trying to imitate. So all these different calls are just trying to imitate that the things happening within the turkey social structure.
Yeah.
To try to trick them to lure them in.
Okay. Yeah. I know that, social media is big, and there's probably different turkey clubs or pages you can follow to find someone that could go out with you, but do you know any that would be a good place for people to start on, like a turkey hunting buddy or a mentor program or something, where people that are just starting out had someone that kind of knew what they were doing?
Yeah, so there's a nonprofit organization called the National Wild Turkey Federation, and they might be a great resource to provide that. But also within our own department, there is a bunch of hunter ed instructors. Okay. That are willing to mentor people in that capacity. I myself am a hunter ed instructor. I focus more on youth classes because I really want to see that next generation come up. And so, yeah, there's definitely some outlets there that you can find people that may be willing to mentor somebody in this activity.
I know that, the best thing would be to have a mentor out with you, so they're helping you along the way. It seems so intimidating, like cleaning your first turkey. How do you even get it back if you're further out from your vehicle? Kind of walk us through that.
A lot of that is just, you can go online at YouTube videos and figure out how to field dress a turkey in the different capacities. So I think that would be a good option if you didn't have somebody to show you. Where in general, or how do people find out where you can turkey hunt? BLM owned lands, U.S. Forest Service owned lands. Some of our wildlife areas allow turkey hunting. Some of those wildlife areas are restricted to those special lottery hunts. So you need to be careful about where you're going. And you can contact any of those other agency offices to get more information about certain areas that allow it. Like I said, some agencies do have restrictions based on management plans for those lands, but most of the time those areas are open to public hunting. How would people starting out find out a good place to turkey hunt? Word of mouth. If you know people that turkey hunt, you want to just listen to what they're saying. A lot of people don't want to give up their hunting spot because they don't want a lot of people there, but I think that's where the mentor comes in as well, just asking them good places to go. But also you can contact the unit biologists for the areas that you're interested in hunting, because they have a good base knowledge of where turkey populations are. And sometimes they know the restrictions of those different areas as well. Where's information on the biologist at? Where can we find that? There's contact information for all of our regional offices, and you could always contact the front desk to the regional office to get the number to the biologist in the area that you want. If anyone had any more questions or wanted to know about, because you're the biologist, like you're the person that some people would reach out to for El Dorado, you said, right? Yep. Is it okay if people have any more questions, if they email you, and like what would that email be? So my email is Shelly, Shelly .Blair, BLAIR @wildlife.ca.gov.
Well, Shelly, thank you so much for joining us. That was great information. And again, if anyone wants to reach out to Shelly, you can email her at shelly.blair@wildlife.ca.gov. All right, and moving right along for the next portion of our conversation, we're going to dive a little bit more into the different seasons for turkey hunting and get some more information on exactly how we can go about finding those mentors and those resources out there for us to have a little bit of guidance for our turkey hunting journey as we get started. For that, we're going to bring in Taylor Williams and Jeff Taylor, and they're going to talk about both of those aspects for us. So let's just go ahead and get started. Taylor, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell everyone what you do and about your turkey hunting journey, and then we'll move right into Jeff.
I am Taylor Williams, the CDFW Hunter and Angler Recruit, Retain, Reactivate Manager. So I oversee all of the strategic efforts on increasing participation through hunting, fishing, everything else, in conjunction with all of the national R3 efforts throughout the state. So yeah, I have been turkey hunting since I was a kid. My dad used to take me with him all the time. And then it wasn't until I was older and a teenager probably that I got into it by myself. And I love going turkey hunting every year. It's one of my favorite seasons.
Jeff, why don't you give everyone a little bit of background on who you are, your profession, and how long you've been hunting, and even as far as how long you've been turkey hunting?
Sure. My name is Jeff Taylor. I'm a biologist with the Sassoon Resource Conservation District out in Sassoon Marsh. I do habitat and water consulting for all the private wetland duck clubs out here. And I've been around hunting probably since I was 4 or 5 years old. So I've collectively have about 30 years of doing it or being around it. And I've only been into turkey hunting for probably the last 10 years. I was just fortunate enough to meet a now good friend on a elk hunt on Grizzly Island. And through friends of a friend and networking, met up with him. And as we kind of elk hunted together, he said he loved turkey hunting just as much, if not more than elk hunting. And at the time I told him that's impossible. And he opted, fortunately for me, he opted to prove me wrong and took me out for the first probably 3 or 4 times I ever went turkey hunting in my life.
Something that you said, it makes me smile, because you said, I've only been turkey hunting for 10 years. You've only been doing something a decade, but you still feel like that's not a long time. Is that something that happens with turkey hunting?
I would apply that to almost any hunting that you find interest in. 10 years of chasing turkeys around. Last year was the first time I ever limited out for any season. And other years, maybe 1, most years, 0. And it is as much fun as it is. It can be just that much or equally as frustrating.
Taylor, do you want to talk a little bit about the 2 different types of turkey hunting seasons and the differences between each?
In California, we actually have 2 different turkey seasons, one in the fall and one in the spring. In the fall, it typically comes in November and then runs for about a month. And you can harvest 2 turkeys during the fall turkey season of either sex. And then in the spring season, typically the general season comes in the last weekend of March and ends the first weekend in May. And you can actually bag 3 turkeys in that season. And the only stipulation for the spring turkey season is that it's bearded. So you're not supposed to take a hen, but there are bearded hens out there.
So if there is a female that has one of those, it's okay to take?
In the spring, yes. Yep.
Okay. How, and either of you could weigh in here, but how would someone new to turkey hunting, what are some resources that are out there for them to find that mentorship, or any organizations or Facebook pages or anything that they can follow and try to find that mentorship to kind of help guide them during their beginning stages of turkey hunting?
I mean, I think for me, one of the best resources I've found is the National Wild Turkey Federation. Um, each year, there seems to be more and more chapters throughout California that are available to, you know, pop in, go to one of the banquets, sit down with, almost everybody there is going to have some level of turkey hunting experience, and just, being able to talk to people that have done it, aside from, if you don't have friends and family that either have property or have hunted or know something about it. The barrier to entry can be really tough. There's a handful of Facebook pages out there. NorCal Wild Turkey Hunters, Hunting Common California, SoCal Turkey Hunters. I would say just the closest Turkey Federation chapter you have would be one of the best resources to actually find people that are engaged in turkey hunting and be able to talk to.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. That was a great resource. As we close out here, how about we get each of you to give your final thoughts or motivation on getting people to just finally get out and start turkey hunting this spring or this fall?
It is a lot of fun to actually get out there, to listen to birds, to see them out, out while you're trying to pursue them. It's probably one of the most exciting types of hunting I've come to realize as I got older. And aside from that, because there's so many in so many different places, there's a good chance you can find an opportunity that's reasonably close to where you live. You don't have to go out of state or drive 100 miles to try to find turkeys. Typically there's some areas where you can find them kind of right in your backyard.
Very cool, Jeff. And Taylor, how about you?
I think that a lot of people hear that turkey hunting is difficult, and they want to kind of get as much knowledge as possible. But I would say the best way to learn how to turkey hunt is by doing, and you're never going to learn if you don't get out there and try it. And most people, like Jeff and I, you just get addicted to it, and there's this chase associated with it that you kind of can't let go of until you succeed.
Thank you so much, Taylor and Jeff, for joining us and providing such useful and informative information. And for the final aspect of our introduction to Turkey Huddle, we're going to move into talking about archery turkey hunting. And for that, we're going to talk to Tasha Bird. Yes, that is her last name. She's been turkey hunting for more than a decade and using a shotgun and archery. And Tasha, you came into hunting later in life, which a lot of our viewers may be in similar situations. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself and then tell us about how you got started in turkey hunting? And then we'll lead into the archery aspect from there.
My name is Tasha Bird, and I've been turkey hunting for about 12 years. I have adult onset hunting. So I didn't grow up hunting. I decided to learn hunting about 12 years ago, and I was really fortunate enough to find an amazing mentor. And I put in a lot of time while I had access to that person, who I don't anymore. Over the years, I hunt a lot of animals, deer and pigs and, ducks and everything. But turkey hunting is my very favorite hunt of the year.
I love your archery story. So kind of tell us all about that, about how you got into archery turkey hunting.
I started with archery, actually, turkey hunting, and then I kind of went back and forth over the years. Archery hunting turkeys is one of the holy grails of archery hunting in general. It's an extremely challenging hunt. it can definitely be done. At some point, I also really love my shotgun. So at some point, you're like, okay, now I've chased turkeys, waiting for everything to line up just right for me to have a bow shot, and it didn't happen. I want a bird. I'm going to get my shotgun and go. And as sure enough, as soon as you do that, the turkey's going to walk in at 20 yards and stand there. And you're like, I could have shot it with my bow. But, that's just going back and forth. If you really commit, then you're going to get one with your bow.
But can you talk
Mhm.
more on the different experience that archery hunting for turkey is?
So archery only for turkeys is 2 weeks after the regular general season ends. So depending on the weather, the birds are going to possibly be a little more wary. So as the hens get bred off and they take off, the hormones of the males that we're going after start to come down and they become a little more cautious again. So it's a really fun hunt in that, you've got to know how to be able to interact with the birds. With archery, with turkeys, it's all about vision. So they can see your finger move at like a couple hundred yards. So instead of just being camoed up to your eyeballs and just doing this, you have to do this, so you have to be able to make a big movement. So you not only have to be a good hunter, you have to be a good archer. So you have to know how to wait until the bird's not looking, which when you're new, it takes some practice, but it's a good thing to learn that patience and to calm yourself. And then, or when they get behind a tree, you have to know when. And then you have to be able to also know where to aim with a bow. When the turkey puffs up, it's kind of hard to see their vitals. It's small. So you have to know where that is as he's turning, different than a shotgun where you're aiming for the head again.
How do you prepare for being able to hit the vital parts of a turkey with your bow and arrow?
I mean, a lot of practice at different distances. When you get set up in an area too, where you're going to try to call birds in, make sure you range find different markers so that if the bird is equal to that rock, that he's at 20 yards, my 20-yard pin. If he's between this and that, it's my 30-yard pin. But when I'm at the archery range and I'm getting ready for turkey hunting, I draw and I hold and I pretend I have to wait. So it's really important to be able to hold and I also do a lot of workouts with like resistance bands, and I hold at the end to strengthen the muscles that can hold the shot steady for a while, because you may have to hold it for 30 seconds until it's just right. No one who hasn't experienced it can know what it's like until they do, the adrenaline that comes up, so you have to, experience that, be willing to wait, be willing to not take a shot too. I've not taken shots, often. So that way you have to, just tell yourself it's okay to not take a shot. I tell myself that a lot. It's okay to not take a shot. That way you give yourself permission. So if it doesn't feel really smooth and confident, you don't take the shot. And I feel much more pride and, not taking a shot than I do, than I would, I think, if I had a hard shot, hard shot. Yeah, that didn't turn out well.
Something also that I like about your story is that you haven't successfully got a turkey with archery.
Hundreds of hours. Yeah.
You continue to do it. And that's something that I really want people to know as well, is that you might not always be successful, but the fact is, like you're saying, getting out there and starting to learn how to control the adrenaline and control yourself in an environment that's uncontrollable. Just keeping with that and knowing that you're still building on, even just getting out there and not taking a shot or missing, you're still building on your experience and the journey, really.
Yeah. I mean, we are so, I am so results oriented that when I first started learning to hunt, it took me a while to realize that I loved being out there. At first, I would get really frustrated when I didn't get something, and now I'm like really excited if I get to talk to birds or if birds come close. I mean, it's crazy exciting when I can call a bird from a quarter mile away and they come in close. Now, they might not fly over that fence that's 20 yards away. It gets real frustrating, but that's fun. That's the fun part, is being out there, watching the sun come up, hearing the birds in the roost, talking to the birds all day. That is why I go. I have gotten 14 turkeys in my 12 years, so that's cool. But I have had years without one where I spent lots of time out there. I call it funstrating, like fun and frustrating, like can't wait to get back out there again, even though they make me crazy. So
that is a great word. I love that word, funstrating. Can you walk us through how you prepare for this season and like what you sign up for as an archer versus as just a regular hunter?
You need to get your upland bird game stamp. Other than that, it's the same for archery or shotgun.
Okay.
And you can use your bow you can have your bow and start at the beginning of the general season and hunt all 6 weeks with your bow only. Or you can hunt the first 4 weeks with your shotgun. You are not allowed to have your shotgun out with you during the archery only season.
So you can always have your bow with you, but can't always have your shotgun with you.
Yes.
Okay. And let's talk about the birds that you have been successful at.
But one of my favorite things about turkey hunting is if you get a bird, it also comes with really great art supplies. So, I have these totes downstairs with all the turkey feathers taken off and organized. I've made some really cool lampshades and hats. And one of my favorite things is I learned about wingbone turkey calls, which I looked it up, and apparently one of the oldest ones was found in an archaeological site in Georgia, and it's like 2,000 years old, and it's made from the humerus and the radius and the ulna, and you cut the ends and you fit them together into a trumpet shape, and then I do a pyrography or burning on them, but you can decorate them and wear them, and I've called in birds with those turkey calls.
Is it okay if people reach out to you and email you if they have any more questions?
Yes, it's Tasha Bird, TASHA BIRD 333 @gmail.com.
All right. Well, that does it for this Recruit, Retain, Reactivate, Harvest Huddle Hour, R3H3, on an introduction to turkey hunting. We hope we've inspired you to finally get outdoors and start building on your turkey hunting experience either this fall or this spring. And if you have any more questions, please remember you can email us at any time. Our email address is r3statewideprogram@wildlife.ca.gov. You can also feel free to email us any ideas you have for an upcoming huddle. And to leave you, we'd like to give you some final inspiration from a current and a former youth turkey hunter, because if they can do it, so can you. So until next time, tight lines and straight shooting. We'll see you soon.
My name is Amy, and I first started to turkey hunt just because my family is very into just hunting in general, and I really just wanted to connect with them and experience that with them. My favorite time turkey hunting, we were with my uncle, and we were just in this field of wildflowers. Just really being a part of the nature process with my family was really huge. I think this is an experience that is very unique and a lot of people don't have, but it's also really valuable because it really connects you to the process of just being in nature and just experiencing that. And I think that just the adventure of turkey hunting is something that everybody should at least try and experience. So even if somebody hasn't done it before, just being willing to try it, I think, is the first step. And then the actual hunting itself, I think, will speak for itself in terms of just how exciting and meaningful it is.
I am Jasper Elliott. For me, it was just really a fun experience, and just like bonding with your dad and your brother, just like that's a pretty fun experience. You don't usually do that a lot in the outdoors too, so it doesn't take a lot of skill. You don't have to have anything, just maybe a 12 gauge with 3 shells and you're good to go. And maybe some face protection because they can see. It's really kind of fun to kind of brag and say, yeah, I got a turkey before you did, like, because my older brothers, they have never got a turkey. So it's pretty nice. All you have to do is just have a good pair of hiking boots and a shotgun, and yeah, just have some good cover. Gobble.